Is selling on eBay hard for you? It is for me. It's hard for a lot of people, I think. And if you're not careful, it can persuade you to never sell on the platform anymore if you let it get to you. But today, we're going to talk about why it's so hard and maybe some tips and tricks that can help you make it just a little bit easier. Welcome to the Prof Sales YouTube channel. I am Prof Sales, and on this channel, we talk about being a reseller, selling on platforms like Amazon and eBay. Speaking of eBay, and just in general, having a positive community here in our little niche, our little section of YouTube. Glad you're here. There's a live show going on right now. So there's a live chat going on. And if you'd like to join us, we're usually on at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and some special times as well. Check out the description for all kinds of helpful links and so on. And I'm just going to ask you to do one thing today. You don't really have to check that out or even hit the like button unless you want to, which is awesome. But just share this. There's a share button down there. I'd appreciate if you'd share it in your social media, your Facebook page, maybe with somebody through an email that you think needs to hear it. And just let me know if you did share it, who you shared it with, and how that went. So just click on the little share button. It's right below the player, and I would really appreciate it. So we'll jump in here. As you can see, I do not have my normal sidekick, Kaaren, with me. She is not here today. She's playing hooky from YouTube, I guess, for lack of a better word. But it's Friday, which is the end of the week. And I don't know if it's the end of the week for you, because if you're a reseller, if you're an entrepreneur, I don't know, is there really an end of the week? I feel like there is no end of the week. I feel like it's just, one day goes into the next. So if it's the end of the week for you, great. If you don't view it that way, that's fine too. But I like to think it was the end of the week still, just habit. And I like to just reflect on things when I get to the end of a week, right? I mean, I think a lot of us do that. We pick periods of time. Maybe we pick New Year's to make resolutions. We pick the beginning of a month or end of a month to start thinking about the next month, a quarter, whatever it is. But I just think that this is a great time to sort of think about, how the week is gone, and even start to think a little bit about next week. And one of the things that's kind of been weighing on me probably for quite a while, probably a year, for lack of a better, I don't know if that's the right time frame, but probably a year or so, is selling on eBay and why it seems like it's so hard sometimes. And I've been selling full-time on eBay now for about 3 years. So I think I have enough perspective now. I've gone through several seasons being full-time, several quarters. I've seen, I've had ups and downs just like anybody else has. And I've come to the conclusion that eBay as a platform to sell on is difficult. It's difficult. I don't like to sugarcoat things on this channel. Many of you know. I mean, I think we have a very positive oriented channel, but I also try to bring a truthful perspective to things too, and not just, gloss over things. And while eBay has, its good points, it also has its not so good points. And I think that in general, compared to some of the other ways that I earn revenue, eBay, and compared to the other ways I think you can earn revenue too, if that's a goal of yours, it's difficult. It's hard. It's hard for lots of the reasons I want to talk about today, but I really like to hear from you guys in the chat, or if you're listening to this later, and maybe you don't agree that eBay is hard to sell on. Maybe you don't think it is, and that's okay too. I'd like to hear that too, that perspective. And I guess we should probably define, what does it mean to say selling on eBay is hard? And to some degree, you're always going to compare it to other e-commerce platforms. You're going to compare it to other things you could be doing to earn income or start a business or scale or whatever you're doing. But I think when you compare it to all those other ways, I don't think it's easy by any stretch of the imagination. And I think you could characterize it as difficult. But I kind of like to hear, what you guys think about eBay in terms of selling on it. Do you feel that it's hard? If so, why? If you feel it's not hard to sell on, why not? And there's not a right or wrong answer here. This is obviously somewhat a matter of opinion and perspective. But as always, when I bring a subject, I try my best to bring, my perspective, but also some reasons behind it. I'm a big believer in have whatever thoughts you want, have whatever beliefs you want about something, but know why. Don't just do it because, it sounds good. You got to really think about it and think, all right. And just like with eBay, does it make sense for you to be on it? You've got to weigh off the difficulty or easiness, however you look at it, of selling on it versus, the reward, risk and reward, right? So I'd love to hear from you guys too in the chat and the comments later after this video post. What your thoughts on? Is eBay hard to sell on? Is selling on it in general, would you classify it as hard? And all that entails to you, all that means to you. But I'm going to share with you guys some things that I think make it hard. But I'm also going to share some solutions that I think can help with those particular problems, those particular challenges. And full disclosure, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm the best at always practicing all these, that I've mastered all these, not by a long shot. I have not. There's still a lot more I could learn about selling on the platform. I feel like I learn something, every day to some degree. But some of the people in the chat are saying that listing and selling is easy, learning, adapting, and time management are hard. I agree. Although I think some people are going to say even the listing part is hard. Thrift Trader says the most difficult part is finding the passion to actually list the item. Finding the stuff is where my passion is. Someone else says the hard sell quick, ship quick. I like that name. The hard part is writing out the slow sales. It's not always great. Maria says 100% it's hard. Ken says define hard. Right. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. Rex says eBay is a hobby is easy. eBay full-time is difficult. I'd agree with that, Rex, overall. I would agree with that. As a hobby, you can sort of distance yourself from it because it's not paying the bills, quote unquote. So you can step away from it or step into it, I think, easier sometimes than if you're full-time. I think at full-time, it's easier to get burnt out on it and feel pressure around it. Tino, my good friend, how are you, sir? He says that he's heading the post office, but developing a system was difficult / fun. Tino's always got such a great optimistic look. I love it. The difficult part is getting Cassini to move my listings up in search rank. Kelly says it takes a special kind of person. You guys are coming up with some great ones here in the chat. And hopefully if you guys are watching after this, you'll be able to see these in the chat when it replays. Going from full-time Poshmark to doing both Posh and eBay is extremely hard. Oh, that's an interesting perspective, Maria. Having to list on multiple platforms, that definitely introduces a lot of extra factors, time and energy, and just organization. It can be. I think it depends on what you're selling, pricing, how much you diversify. The hardest part is putting the work day in and day out, not seeing the return. Oh, that's true, Tracy. Preach. It's hard to stay motivated and keep working when you're not seeing that return, she says, which is completely accurate. Let's see. Sell Quick says, my wife and I want to go full-time. We need to save to ride out the show days. I think you mean the slow days, but if you're saying show days to watch this show, all right. But I think you meant slow days. And sales are so sporadic. It's not for everybody. It's becoming unpredictable lately. Man, these comments, guys, I love them. I mean, you guys are like all over it. And I just wanted to bring up a few things, and please keep continuing with those. I definitely want to shout more of these out as we go. But I'm going to talk to you about a few things, a few reasons I think it's hard. And I'm not going to lie. There's days, there might even be weeks. Full disclosure, there might even be weeks when I want to give it up. I just want to be like, screw this. I'm doing something totally different. This is just, I'm just over this. This is just, you name it, you fill in the blank. So many things I could say, but I don't for various reasons. And, that's not to say one day I won't, but, there are reasons I come back to it as well. But I think one of the reasons that makes it really hard for me has made it hard for me, has been a low average selling price for my items, which means low actual profit dollars. And we've talked about this recently a lot, that if you're selling things that don't sell for a lot of money, it's hard to make a lot of money on them. You can make a great return on your investment. Turning $1 into 5 is great. Turning $2 into 10 is great, but it's not a lot of actual dollars per item. So when you look at it that way, then you have to move a lot of items, which requires a lot of some of the other things that it takes to list and photograph and all those things. So that low average selling price, and as someone has been mentioning to me over some comments on some other videos, there's a lot of items on eBay that sell for a fairly low average selling price. Now, that's not saying you should sell at that rate, but it says that there's a market there and there's an expectation from a lot of buyers, not all buyers, but from a lot of buyers around a lot of categories, that items will be fairly low price, which means, to be competitive, sometimes you have to be in that range. If the highest selling item in your niche is $30 and the lowest is 10, well, you can't really easily sell anything for 40. And you probably don't want to sell it for 10 either, but somewhere around that $20 mark is going to be a sweet spot potentially. But that's still not a lot of profit per item when you really think about it. So a low average selling price, I think if that has been your experience on eBay, I think it makes it hard, because at the end of the day, you just don't move a lot of dollars back into your bank account. You might sell a lot of items, but you don't move a lot of dollars. So I think that's a difficult one. Kelly says she's given up twice and completely quit and gotten a real job. Isn't it funny what we call a real job? Like, we're entrepreneurs, a lot of us watching this show, and we've created this business, right? And which in effect has given us kind of a job. But then we say, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to quit and go to get a real job. That was some other entrepreneur's dream that created that job for you. So, it all comes from kind of the same place. Somebody got an idea and started something, and it grew. So let's talk about another reason I think it's really hard. And some people have already been mentioning this one, is the grind. How many of you guys are over the grind? Like, part of the reason I've moved to higher average selling price items is I hate the grind. Like, I want to say hated. Hate is a strong word. I did not like the pressure to think about sourcing and photographing and listing dozens and dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of items per week sometimes was like a goal to go after. I just found I couldn't do it. Like, it just drove me nuts. I wanted to do it. I had intention to do it, but man, that grind of just, listing and sourcing so many items per week, if that's your model, that is really difficult. And then a lot of you guys said, you went out and sourced. Like, everybody has their strengths. People are great. Some people are great at finding sourced items, but then they're not so great at listing. Other people great at grinding out listings, but they don't know how to figure out how to get how much capital to pull back out to get more items. But I think you can do some things to make the grind a little easier. And what I found in the past that's helped me is you can batch tasks together. Take all your photos together. Maybe you take all your photos of shirts together, all your photos of jeans together, because batching usually is easier for most people to wrap their head around than trying to reset and go over to a different station and go over to a different station. So you can, take 10 sets of photographs, 10 items, and then go list list 10 items and then go back and take another 10, or you could do photos all one day. If you're that dedicated to it, you can just stand there and photograph things for a few hours. You can also set up templates in eBay, which helps so that you don't have to type in so much stuff when you do every listing. It makes the listing process go faster because you've replicated things like your selling practices and so on, your return practices, things like that. And you can niche down. When you have a few niches that you're involved in, you're going to be super fast at knowing exactly what to take photos of, exactly what to source. You're not going to have to research as much because you're already going to know what things sell for, and you're going to be able to list them faster. So, batching, templates and niching can help you with the grind of eBay. Like, I feel like this video could have been called the eBay grind because I feel like it is a grind in so many ways. So thank you guys for the comments too. Lots of people are having great comments here. Yeah, lots of people in the house. I appreciate you guys coming out. And the only thing, some of you came in later, I just asked, share this video. There's a little share button right below the video. I just asked you to do that. You can like, you can dislike too, but just share it. That would be cool. I'm just trying to, grow my channel. Obviously, I feel like I always help somebody, and I get messages from people all the time. And the only way I can really grow it is to have it kind of be shared with other people. And yes, sometimes people will just find me. But, if I say something or you think there's value in a video, I would ask you share it with other people through your social media. The little button's right under the player. So it's really simple to do. It just automatically creates a link and you just click on the platform you want to share it with. So, Steam Store, I don't think I can read that. But that's pretty funny. eBay is like a steam engine that constantly requires coal. That's for sure. That's for sure. Let's see here. All right. Next up, another reason why sometimes eBay can feel really difficult and this one, you guys have been all over it. I kind of want to hear what people's views are on this. How many of you in the chat or watching afterwards are frustrated because your items won't sell? They just don't sell. They don't sell. They don't sell, in the time frame that you expect. I get messages from people sometimes that say things like, hey, I've listed 10 things and none have sold in the past 2 weeks. And I know through my experience that 10 items listed over a couple weeks is not really a lot of time for those items to sell necessarily, especially depending on the category they might be in. But I know others of you are more veteran resellers, and I've had items that would not sell and been listed for a year plus for various reasons. And now I didn't necessarily lower the price down to a bargain basement price, but I was competitively priced the whole time. And just for whatever reason, the item would not sell. I mean, it's the most frustrating thing when you find something that's a really good buy and you buy it and you photograph it and you list it and you do everything right, and it just sits. It just sits. It just sits like for days and weeks and months and even a year or more sometimes, and it will not sell. I mean, I don't know about you, but I try not to go in and look at individual items anymore, because I know some people watch like their views and watchers on certain items. I don't do that. I haven't done that for a long time, because I found when I did that, I would start wondering why things weren't moving, or why they had this many views and didn't sell, but this one had this many and did, whatever it was. But I think that items that won't sell is a really common problem, and that makes eBay just like so difficult sometimes to deal with. My only solutions are to change your pricing. Your pricing, sometimes even just changing the price, it probably re-indexes the listing and makes eBay look at it again, which could refresh it and throw it higher in a search. But maybe nobody knows the answer for that 100%, but it sort of makes sense the way search engines work. And it also you might be out of price with the market. Like what made sense 6 months ago, maybe the market's changed. Maybe you need to price it higher. It's not always pricing it lower. Sometimes pricing it higher sells it. It's really weird. You can try promotions, which is basically changing the pricing in a way, because promotions, you're either running a percentage off or you're letting eBay do promoted listings for you and pushing it across the platform in more places. Sometimes that will make an item sell that previously just been setting. And then the last one, a lot of people say, is sort of the metadata way, is just, to list regularly. The idea being that eBay is constantly looking at you and your account. The problem is that with all these solutions, guys, there's no one who has like an empirical data set that can tell you and point to it and show you 100% this will work. They just can't. It doesn't exist. eBay does, and they're not talking for obvious reasons, but they'll tell you certain things will help you, but ultimately, whether or not an item sells is not entirely in your control. So eBay is like a good scotch. The more you drink, the easier it goes down. I didn't want to let that comment go, Sadie, because that was just too good. But I'm not a scotch fan, but I see where you're coming from. Connie says, mine don't sell consistently. I'll have 6 items one day and none for the next 3. Preach, sister. I'm there with you. I've had similar experiences. I think most of us had. I listed 200 books last week and jeans sell that were over 6 months old. I hate Cassini. Yeah, Rex, you bring up an interesting point. Sometimes when things are not selling and you list some other things, old things will sell. So that makes me think that there is some logic to the argument that when you list something, eBay kind of has to re-index your listings to some degree, or the algorithm goes back in and sort of makes sure nothing changed in your old ones, and maybe they get pushed up a little. Maybe somebody else sees them. I don't know, though. There's no way to know that for 100%. I've had weeks where I listed like a ton of things and nothing sold more than did the week before when I didn't list hardly that much. So it's like, I don't know. Like there's no rhyme or reason to it sometimes. Allegedly, if you lower the price by 5% or more, eBay will message buyers who viewed it previously. That's interesting, Adam. I would love to see proof of that, because that would probably be potentially a good tool to use. But I'd want to see that for sure works before I kind of based any of my pricing decisions. Run really low for 3 days and then relist at a price 3x higher and it sold today. There's no logic sometimes. I mean, it's like, and somebody said, I missed it, but somebody said it takes, I think Vintage Fiend, it takes the right person to see it. And you're right. You're absolutely right. It does, of course, take the right person. But the idea is, how can you get it in front of as many of the right people as possible for as long as possible and as often as possible so that it can sell? And that's the key. Skip says, eBay for Business stated recently on Facebook, new listings don't help old listings. That's interesting, Skip. And that, if that's true, then all of the time that we've spent on YouTube and Facebook and so on, just list, which I have a whole video saying how list is not necessarily the best way to run your business. It's bad advice. It doesn't necessarily help you. Like, you might do better to spend time on the listings than just list. You might do better to put up 20 really good listings where everything is optimized, and you're priced accurately with items that people want or searching for, versus listing 100 items that are sort of mediocre and not a lot of people want. If that's true, Skip. So send me that link, Skip, when you get a point. Skip's point was, that eBay said on their business page that new listings do not help old ones, which is very interesting. My other question would be, do new listings help new listings? Do they help those listings get pushed up? So that would be my other question. And maybe they covered that. Another thing too, that a lot of people think, why people think eBay's hard. And this one might be the one that's the most challenging for me, because a lot of people who complain about eBay are complaining because they're just not making enough money on the platform. And part of that goes into the nature of eBay. We've talked about it's difficult to scale on eBay and without expending enormous amounts of time that maybe you have and maybe you don't, or even if you have it, it's not worth, what you get out of it. But I don't think eBay, and we'll get into this in a moment, I don't think eBay is really any more expensive in terms of the financial part selling than any other e-commerce platform. But the price at which things sell is lower than some of eBay's competitors, such as, Amazon, for instance. Amazon, traditionally, even though they started out with low prices, now a lot of their things that are comparable. I just had one of my consignment clients ask me about something yesterday that they were now unable to sell on Amazon, and asked me if I would consign it for them on eBay. And I kid you not, the list price on Amazon was twice what it was on eBay for solds on average. Now, I don't know how many were selling at that list price on Amazon, but some were, because that was the reason he sourced it. And I'm still going to sell it for him on eBay because it still makes financial sense, but it was half the price. And And that is not uncommon. And that really speaks to this, a lot of people not making enough money on eBay. And because it is difficult, guys. Like, even if your margin is 50%, let's say that your margin before your pre-tax margin, you still got to pay taxes out of this, is 50%. So if you're selling $6,000 a month, you're netting $3,000 before taxes. That's $36,000 a year. Depending on where you live, I mean, that's a very part-time kind of salary. It's full-time in some places in the country, and other places it would be very part-time, depending on your cost of living. And to sell $6,000 a month on eBay, let's say that's your gross sales. Let's say you sold 200 items at $30 an item. Most of the people who are selling and watching this channel and so on probably do not average a $30 average selling price. Most of you average 20, which means then you have to sell 300 items a month. How many of you, by show of hands, are selling 300 items a month consistently that are averaging $20 or more per item? I would dare bet it's a pretty small percentage of the eBay universe. And that's partly because of the way pricing is set up on eBay. It tends to be don't get me wrong, there are categories where it would be a much higher average selling price. But if you're a clothing seller and you're selling pre-owned clothing and you're doing the traditional bins, thrifting, yard sale, estate sale, garage sale sort of method, and you're trying to do volume, it is very difficult to hit a $30 average selling price and sell 200 items a month to gross $6,000 and net maybe $3,000. So, I mean, it's just math. I mean, this is not like you're a bad seller or you don't know what to pick up. It's not that at all. It's just the scalability of it in certain categories, because of the way the platform is set up and the expectation of buyers, is very difficult, very difficult. And I had one of my Amazon seller friends said to me the other day, I was looking at something in a store. This is the truth. I was looking at something in a store. I had some time to kill, and I scanned an item, and it was on sale for $109. New. But the solds on Amazon were like $175. Or maybe they were $199. I can't remember, but it was somewhere up there. And I said, hey, you think that's enough margin? And it ended up being like I would net like $60 after fees. And when I went back to the store to pick up the item, it turns out it was in the wrong place, and the item was actually $135 instead of $109. And it was only selling for maybe it was selling to the point where I would have netted $30, but because I would have had to spend $135 to do it, he's like, you shouldn't do that at your beginner level of Amazon, because that's a lot of capital to risk. If you were in my position and you could, buy 30 of them without blinking an eye, and, just because of volume, because it had a great rank. This item was ranked like 550 in an Amazon category. It was like 550 in camera on Amazon. So it would have sold like that. But he was like, I wouldn't do it. Even though you're going to net $30, it's still, you're risking 130 to do it. And eBay's kind of like that. Like, a lot of people forget that, if you're going to sell things for $30 in pre-owned clothing, you're really going to have to be selective in what you choose. And then you run into, how many items would it take you to sell 200 a month at $30 an item to gross $6,000? How many listings do you need for that? More than 200. I don't know how many more. I mean, if you got the hottest items, sure, you can blow through them. But you're going to have to source a few hundred more than that probably, and have at least probably 50% more than that listed, maybe even more than that, even if you're really blowing through it. So it's really difficult. And I think you just have to here's your solution. Sorry, it was a long one. Just be realistic in your expectations about eBay and about what you can make and so on, and what kind of lifestyle it can provide you. Know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers and you think you're just looking at what you sold, you don't know your numbers, and you don't really know if you're making any money or not. You don't know if it's worth it. You don't know if your value of your time, your VOT, if you're really hitting your real number that you want to hit. You got to know that, guys. Like, or otherwise, what are you doing? Like, most of you in this chat right now would not go work at a job that paid you X when you needed Y, because you would say, well, I need Y because it fits in with all my goals, my bills, my expenses, my lifestyle, whatever. Why would you do that on eBay? Why would you only accept X when you really needed Y? You know, I mean, if you're just trying to learn the platform, that's fine. But at some point, if you evolve past that and decide I need Y amount of money and eBay is only providing X for the time I put in, you need to change your model or do something different. So anyway, sorry that took a while to get through. Thanks for all the comments too, guys. 126 people watching. Thanks for everybody coming out. And as I mentioned earlier, just share the video. Little thing right below it. Just share it. That's all I'm asking. I feel better now, Jason. You mentioned average selling price and bot. I know you got to have a little prof math. Okay, so here's another one. How many guys agree with this one? Fees are high on eBay. So I got a feeling there's going to be some people out there, and I guess it comes down to, do you guys think the fees are really high, or but compared to what? I mean, I think it's hard to say that something is something in a vacuum. You know, oh, that roll of paper towels is a very big roll of paper towels. Well, compared to what? Well, you compare it to other rolls of paper towels, right? That would be a logical comparison. But I think people look at eBay and they say, you know, fees are high just in a vacuum. Well, again, you know, I don't know that that's completely accurate, because if you open a brick and mortar store, your fees would be very high. I promise you, higher as a percentage of profits than eBay. You would have more overhead expense in a brick and mortar store than you do on eBay, for sure, by any definition. But eBay has its expenses too, and they're in business to make money just like you are. I think you have to look at them compared to other websites. I find Amazon's fees are actually a little higher, even though they do provide fulfillment. They do have other advantages, but their fees I don't know about some of the other sites out there, like Poshmark or Etsy or some of these other ones that are out there. I don't know how they compare to them. It can be kind of misleading. Like, you really need to look at what's the cost of an item to sell here versus one over on eBay versus one here, and so on. And some people, you know, they do think eBay's fees are high, but I think that's only if you look at them in a vacuum to some degree. I mean, they're high, but they probably have to be high because they got to make money, guys. Like, running a e-commerce platform like that and drawing in millions and millions of people is not cheap. So I don't know if they're high in comparison to others or not, but I would just say to you, if you think they're that high, sell on your own website, sell locally, or even try a different platform. Those are all like realistic solutions to the eBay's fees are high. I don't like paying the fees any more than you do, but I feel like they're a necessary evil that if I had to go create my own site, it would probably cost me more and be a longer time to build. I still think it's a decent strategy to do that, just because you don't want to be tied into somebody's platform if they pull the rug out from under you one day, which could happen, right? So thank you, Reselling Dreams, for the super chat. Thanks for all the great videos and blessings. Well, thank you very much. That was very nice of you to contribute, and much appreciated. Let's see some of the people's comments here. Sometimes Amazon fees are nearly 50%. Yeah, they definitely can be high. I mean, no question about it. You're right. Amazon fees can approach 50% for FBA and so on. Look at the customer base you get. Yeah, I mean, how much would it cost you to go market your brick and mortar store? Realistically, what would it cost you? A social media strategy, signage, maybe ads locally. I don't know. Depends on what the business is. I mean, it would cost you a lot of money, guys. No doubt about it. And eBay is taking that off your plate. You can argue it still costs too much, but excuse me. Let's see. Kelly did brick and mortar, says no, thank you. Brick and mortar is tough too, because you're also limited by location. If you're depending on walk-in traffic. Let's see. Jason, have you been doing more local sales for your shoes? I did one yesterday, actually, or maybe it was the day before. Yeah, I've been pushing a couple of those. So I'm actually I think I'm actually going to try to sell virtually all my shoes local as well. And it creates a little bit of a accounting or organizational headache on the back end, because you got to remember, if you're going to sell it, to take down the listing, or if you sell it on eBay, you want to take it off of the local market. But yeah, I'm actually thinking I'm going to list all my shoes locally as well. Talk about listing time, but I just want to move them. So I don't know. I might experiment with it a little bit. It's not so much the fees are high; they're just complex. So many different fees. I agree with you there, Beth. I think eBay could do a better job in simplifying the fees. I think Amazon has a better model for that in that respect, that their fees are a little bit simpler and easier to understand. It would be nice if you didn't have to pay a fee to list anything. That'd be nice. But eBay's made that such a part of their revenue stream, and with store subscriptions or insertion fees, I'm not sure they're going to go away from that easily anytime soon. They might, but I kind of doubt it. It's kind of ingrained in who they are. All right. How much would it even cost you to advertise your own website? Yeah, for sure. Not cheap. All right. Another reason I think that eBay selling on it's so hard. It's a lot of work. I didn't know any other way to say this one, so I just said it like it came in my brain. It's a lot of work, because it's not just any one part of it to be successful, however you want to define success, and that should be your own. It's very difficult. It's really difficult, actually, and I find it hard. I find it to be a lot of work. I find it to be labor intensive, because especially when you're selling one-offs like a lot of us do, because you're having to put so much time somewhere along the line into researching and photographing and listing and pricing and all this. And it's very labor intensive. I don't think it's hard labor, but it's a lot of it to get one item listed. When you talk about all that time, the research, the checking it, the sourcing it, the listing, the photographing, and the packing and shipping and dealing with it, it's a lot. It's a lot. There's no doubt about it. And I think you have to have reasonable expectations. You're not going to be an instant success on eBay necessarily. That's very hard to do, because there is a learning curve. And I think we also have to remember that everything that has ever been easy for you was probably hard at first, because you didn't know how to do it. I mean, at one point you didn't know how to tie your shoes. And some of you watching probably still don't know how to tie your shoes. You know who you are. If that comment hit home, it's you. But you didn't know how to feed yourself. You didn't know how to dress yourself. You didn't know how to get from point A to point B. And then you learned, and then, some things were easier than others. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Even once you've learned it, it still can be hard. It's not like you push a button and it just runs on automatic pilot. A lot of people's eBay's businesses, my friend Luke, and I've talked about before, Evangelist Entrepreneurs, who I did a show with last night, we've talked about could you build an eBay business that you could sell, that you could sell your eBay business to someone else. You could get out of it completely. And the problem with that is, for most resellers, they're such an integral cog in the machine, they couldn't sell it, because the business is them and they are the business. So it'd be really difficult to sell an eBay business unless you have very specific things set up, relationships with suppliers and so on, a system of, photographs and listing and so on, and packing and shipping and processing that was very automated, and you had systems in place, you had people doing it, or virtual assistants or what have you. Really hard to do, because eBay's a lot of work. So just keep that in mind, that it's a lot of work. It's always going to be a lot of work. Make that your expectation, that if you want to really be successful at it to a higher level, whatever that level looks like for you, it's not going to happen instantly, and you will learn, and some things will get easier, but it's always going to be kind of difficult. Krillin says, I just left the office of my eBay consignment guy. His sales are in the millions. He is my motivation. And thank you so much, Rob, for the $5 super chat. Man, what a great comment. Just showing you what's possible. I mean, I don't know what his percentages are, but his sales are in the millions. Even if he's down to like the teens for his consignment percentage, he's still making a really good profit on those sales. So absolutely. And consignment, as we've talked about, is one of those business models where it takes away some of that hard work and allows you to divert it to other areas. You don't have to go source things. You don't have to risk your capital. You can have the items come to you, which takes that off your plate and then allows you to focus on the other parts. But still not a model for everybody. But thank you very much for the super chat, Rob. Always much appreciated. Rob's a great friend of the channel. Let's see what else is here. So I think the next big thing that people struggle with on eBay and why it's so hard for them is because a lot of people, they see others doing better than them. They look at this person or this group or this, and they say, well, that person's doing better than me, and they're in the same niche as me. They're in the same category as me. Maybe they even started the same time as me. Maybe they started after me. So you start kind of playing that comparison game. And that can be really hard, guys, because I kind of feel like when people ask people for their store, sometimes that's what they're asking. Like they want to play the comparison game. They want to compare their listings versus somebody else's. You can go through. Okay. Just step over the cord. Sorry, Ben's home. So, not sorry that you're home, but yeah. There it is. But I think if you play that comparison game, guys, you'll lose. There's always going to be somebody who's going to seem like they're doing it better than you. Like Rob just pointed out, compare yourself to others and you see them doing better than you and it makes it hard for you. That really is coming from our own insecurities. And I have them, you have them, I'm sure we all do. We all have insecurities about certain things in our lives. We're not sure if we're doing it right, if we're good enough, if we measure up. And that's really difficult to overcome. I'm going to be honest with you. It's something I always struggle with. I mean, I do it in every way, not just eBay, but like, looking at your YouTube numbers versus somebody else, your Instagram followers. I mean, like our society has constructed all these things now that force us or try to force us to compare ourselves to other people. And worse, you're comparing yourself only to this vision that the other person has decided to put out in the world that's not necessarily even a complete accurate depiction of who they are, but it's what they want you to see. So you always end up feeling, when you look at those things, a little inferior. Or a lot of people do. Like I know sometimes people put those things out to inspire people, say, hey, look what you can achieve. But I think for some people it comes off as a brag, and that turns some people off, or they feel inferior and or they get mad or get jealous. I would just say compare your results to yourself. Look at how you've grown over the last week, month, year, whatever it is, time frame you're looking at. And if you've gone backwards in your growth, there may be very legitimate reasons for that. Some in your control, some not. You own your results, but I don't think you control how you get them completely. Some of them have nothing to do with you. You don't control everything about your results, but you do own them. They're yours. They're not anybody else's. And compare yourself to yourself. And I think you won't feel so inadequate a lot of times. But it can be a very, a very difficult thing to overcome. Sorry, I'm gonna need a little water here. I try not to compare, but it's harder to do when you have a slow day and Instagram is full of home runs. I know, right? I might just issue a challenge to any other YouTubers watching right now, and I'm going to try to do this too. I'm going to post some crappy sales. I'm going to post some things on social media that did not sell for a lot of money, maybe just made a little profit. And just let people know that, hey, no matter what happens, you're going to have some things just aren't going to be home runs. They're not going to be base hits. They're going to be like foul balls. And that's just going to happen. And that's going to be part of it. So if you're watching and you're a YouTuber, post some things that did not sell for a lot of money. You did not make a lot of profit on. They were not home runs. And let's see what happens. Let's see if we can stem the tide a little bit of all that. But anyway, let's see here. So I'm reading some of the comments. Thrift Trader says, I'll do the same on my channel. Yeah, that'll be a fun show. Just here's a bunch of stuff that I sold and made nothing on. Or I lost money on. Wouldn't that be amazing? But Ken says, everyone cannot be duplicated. I just spent $50,000 on inventory. Everyone cannot do that. You're right, Ken. I mean, that wouldn't be the right model for a lot of people. Some people wouldn't have the capital to do that. And if they did have the capital, it still wouldn't be the right play for them to do. I mean, you have to be in the right position with the right situation and the right opportunity. So I got two things left here, guys. And sorry, we've kind of gone through a bunch of these, but it's just a lot of things here. Why else is eBay, why is selling so hard? Maybe you don't have any room to store things. This comes up a lot. I mean, again, if you want to scale up a business and you're selling low average selling price items and you want to make a considerable amount of income off of it, you're going to need a lot of items in storage potentially. And it comes down to some people just don't have the space, and the space isn't worth it. Like, you think about, you know, maybe you can rent. I mean, you can rent storage space. That is a good solution in some cases. But then that brings in the complexity of having to go there and get it, and the expense of that, making sure that somewhere that's safe, and you know, the environmental controls are in place. And obviously that's more expense too, and you need a system. I mean, but that can be difficult because you start running out of space and then you just start putting it wherever there's room. And that's not a good solution either, because it's disorganized. It's not an efficient workflow. If you're going to move anytime soon, or you think you're going to move and you think you're going to continue to sell on eBay, or you're already selling on, you're thinking about selling on eBay, consider making your next place you move to, think about having space for, you know, your business. Because if you can justify the expense by what you're going to make on it, it may be worth paying a little extra more to have an extra bedroom. You know, the first bedroom in like an apartment, for instance, is the most expensive one. Every bedroom after that gets cheaper and cheaper because they've kind of priced into their model that initial amount, you know, the cost of you just moving in there, period. So per square foot, bedrooms, for instance, tend to get cheaper and cheaper when you rent an apartment on a per square foot basis. So, excuse me, that's something to think about with your business. You obviously can sell smaller things, like Duncan says. Smaller stuff takes up less room, for sure. Usually you take less photos of smaller things on average, not always, but. And, you know, if you can find ones that, you know, will sell for enough money, there you go. Love the shirt, Prof. Yep. I like it on top. It's a Pikes Peak shirt. Yeah, I know what it means. Whatever. But thanks for the like on the shirt. So, you know, I think no room is one that a lot of eBayers run into. And a lot of people who sell on this channel, you know, they start with enough room and then they reach a point where they're like, it's taken over my closet. Then it took over my bedroom. Then it took over my garage. And we had the same problem here. And we now have like 300 square feet we don't really need. Maybe more like 400, actually, you could argue. So, you know, consider that could be a challenge for you, but there are solutions to it. The last one I have is, and you guys can add others too, but is buyers are, this is, I probably should have been a little more broad with this one. One of the last reason I have why selling on eBay can be so hard is you may start to feel like buyers are scamming you. They're trying to put one over on you. They're trying to get an advantage on you. And here's what I'm going to say to that. And this comes in a lot of forms, right? It could come with like they're trying to lowball you on offers. They're trying to commit buyer fraud and get things and not pay for it. All kinds of stuff, right? Here's what I'm going to say. That's true. So there are buyers out there who will try to scam you and pull the wool over your eyes and get an advantage over you. There are buyers out there who will try to lowball you with a very low offer and try to make you feel guilty enough into selling them something at a really low amount that will try to get an advantage. Thankfully, they are a very small percentage, at least from my experience, of all the buyers out there. The vast majority of buyers that you're going to have on eBay, you're going to sell something to them. You're going to ship it out. They're going to get it. They're going to leave you feedback. You're going to leave them feedback, and that's it. The transaction's done. You're never going to hear from them again unless they're a repeat buyer. They're happy. You're happy. You got the money. They got the product. Rinse and repeat. That is going to happen. I don't know a number, but it's up in the 90-something percentiles. I mean, it's a high number because most people are there actually to buy something, just like you're there to sell something. Unfortunately, I think the 1 or 2% or 3% or whatever the number is of people who cause buyers that cause issues for you probably get 95 or 100% of your attention when you're angry about buyers. So I think a lot of that comes back to your insecurity as a seller. You're not sure you have it right. You're not sure that it's great that you're in that, you can handle these situations. But you can, and you have to understand that person, if they're trying to do those things, it's not because you did anything wrong. It's not really eBay's fault or PayPal's fault. It's just the way the world works. I love it when I hear people say like eBay's got all these scammy buyers or Amazon's got all these people that want to leave fake reviews. Like there's something about the platform that attracts those people. No, those people would do those things no matter what platform was there or would try to do those things. Now, I know you might say, well, eBay needs to police it better and Amazon needs to stamp it out or whatever. But realize, guys, these platforms need both. They need buyers and sellers. And the last thing they want to do is have either group in mass numbers exit the platform. That would be disastrous and would potentially put them out of business. So it's definitely a balance they have to walk between buyers and sellers in any given circumstance and in general. And that is, if you think that's an easy line to walk, open your own e-commerce platform and try to walk that. Imagine if you had the hundreds and thousands of people in the reseller community going on message boards and YouTube channels complaining about your platform day in and day out. What would you do? Like, how would you handle it? What changes would you make? What would you say to them? Like, that's really difficult. That's a difficult business decision. I just think that it is difficult that there are buyers scamming you. And I know I've probably been scammed a couple times, maybe, quote unquote, nothing huge. And there's been several other times when it would have happened. One was just recently with a very new buyer wanted me to ship something to a different address, which I didn't do. And then thankfully got a message saying that the buyer's account had been compromised and I should not ship anything to that address, which I hadn't. So it worked out. But just I don't know. I mean, don't give the 1 or 2% of the people out there that are annoying 95 or 100% of your attention. Like that's a mistake. That will drive you nuts. It won't solve anything. You're not going to make those people better buyers. Reporting them, lashing out at them, posting their name on Facebook or on YouTube or on some website that allows you. I don't know if that one's still out there. It used to allow you to post, problem buyers. It's not going to solve anything, guys. Like, it's not going to stop them. It's just for you to quote unquote feel better. But I've never met anyone that it actually made you feel better. I mean, because you still got scammed or they attempted the scam. That person didn't change. You lashed out too, maybe rightfully in some sort of moral sense, but it didn't solve anything. I'm running a business here, and my business is not to make buyers on eBay better buyers. It's not. It's not to be the feedback police or the eBay police and try to report all these people. I just don't feel like that's my role. I don't have time and energy for that. I would get nothing out of it. I would get no satisfaction, no compensation, and probably not even any recognition, really. So what do I really get out of it? I feel like I get nothing out of it. So to me, it comes off as just, you're trying to take revenge. And I don't know. I just don't want to live in that place. So I would just let that go. But those were like 7, 8, 9 things, guys, that I think make selling on eBay really hard. Sometimes, maybe all the time. You probably have more. I'd love to hear, more of your comments on them, and what else, you have found to be really difficult on eBay and that makes it so hard. I don't anticipate a lot of those things to change. You can change some of them, as we mentioned, some of the solutions, but ultimately a lot of those things are just here to stay. I mean, items aren't going to suddenly start flying off the eBay shelves. You're not suddenly going to start making tremendous profits on eBay. Their fee structure is not going to get cut in half. Your room to store things is going to be what it is unless you do something about it. There's always going to be somebody doing better than you. It's always going to be a grind. I mean, these things are just here to stay. So you're going to have to either deal with them or move off the platform. And ultimately, I would tell you, if it's just hard and you just are complaining about it and it's frustrating and it's getting to you, don't do it. Take a break from it. Maybe you'll come back. Maybe you won't. If you don't, that's okay. Do something different. Life is too short to live in frustration land 24/7. And a lot of us want to do that. And I just think it's waste of energy. It doesn't make you any happier or feel any better about it. And you make everybody around you miserable. So, if it's really that big of a source of frustration to you, stop. If it becomes that big of a source of frustration to me, like if I'm always weighing the pros and cons, and you've got to weigh your own. But somebody just said my worst day on eBay is still better than my best day at my job. I agree there. 100,000,000%, it's better. But eBay's not the only alternative to having a quote unquote regular job. There's other alternatives. So I don't have to choose a regular job or eBay. I can choose something else instead of a regular job as well, and still be successful and still meet my objectives and so on. But eBay is definitely a great way to dive into that pool and see what happens. We'll have a few minutes left here. We'll talk about a few questions and so on. Do you feel like eBay can be grown exponentially? 500 listings equals 3K, 1,000 equals 6K. What are your experiences? I used to sort of think that. I'm not so sure now. I think you will potentially grow your sales revenue as you grow your listing count and so on. But is it a straight linear progression? I don't think so. It could even be more in some cases. Like you become a better seller. Say on day one you had 100 items listed, and then you looked at your results after 30 days, and then on that day you replaced all the things that sold and listed another 100. Would you be double at the end of month 2? Maybe. But you've learned some things over that first 30 days too. So that's going to make you better as well. You're going to source better, price better, photo better, list better. But I don't think it's a straight linear progression like that. I don't. But I can't prove it. Oh, lots of comments I probably missed here. One of the reasons I started an eBay business was to stay at home. If it grew to the point where I need additional space, I probably wouldn't do it anymore. That's a good perspective, Michelle. I like that. She's like, it's going to grow to this level, and that's it. And because that's all the capacity I have for it, and I think that's smart. You're not saying I'm going to grow a 10,000 item eBay store and run it right out of my home. Well, good luck finding space for 10,000 items unless you're selling like postcards, like or something like that, Duncan, right? Something that's got enough room. Let's see. eBay's still the best for collectibles. Having your own site doesn't get the near same amount. I know, Duncan, you have to teach me to sell postcards one day. I would actually sell postcards, and I have a very specific reason for that, because Kaaren and I have talked about going on the road here in the next couple of years. And if we did that and lived, remotely, postcards would be something we could ship from anywhere. We could technically stick a stamp on them. Okay, bad joke. But anyway, you get my point. It would be something you could take on the road. You wouldn't need to have, a big, huge inventory space for. Do you think they give you listing favor? I'm not sure what that means, Rex. I don't know if that question was for me or not. Oh, you're talking to somebody else. Okay. Let's see. No other platform can reach the ends of the earth like eBay. That's true. I mean, I think eBay is better for some items than others. I mean, I don't think that's really any big revelation, right? Um, there are certain things that, I think for scaling a business, for instance, Amazon is a far superior platform in lots of ways. But I think for certain types of items that if you have experience in and you want to sell, eBay is a much better business, for a completely different set of reasons. So, but that doesn't mean it's easy. I still think it's hard. Man, a lot of people in the chat today. I'm so sorry if I missed your questions, guys, your comments. I did not intend this to run quite as long, what I was saying, but you know how I am. Karen's not here, so somehow I'm blaming her for me going long on this. No, I'm just kidding. I was going to say, just in general, just think about, eBay can still be hard for you, and you can still do it, and you can still love doing it. Like there are things that are hard that you should continue to do in life, and there are things that are easy and you're really good at you should not do. Just because I've said this before, just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should do it. I mean, there can be lots of reasons not to do it. So I think that, if it is hard for you, and I think selling on eBay is hard, I think you should still consider, well, is it worth it? And if it's worth it, even though it's hard, there's still great value in doing it. So don't let that be your only determining factor. But don't be disillusioned and think, I'm going to jump on eBay and it's going to be super simple. And it's just going to, because I don't think it is. I don't think it's like that at all. So anyway, well, listen, guys, that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for stopping by. I do appreciate it. The description's got all kinds of helpful links, but I've been asking you guys all show, hit the little share button down below this video, right below the video player. If you're watching on mobile, it should be there too. And just share this video with somebody on your social media platforms. That's all I'm asking you to do. Please just share it. It just creates a link. You can share it in like 10, 12, 15 different places, I think Reddit and Facebook, all kinds of places. And I would highly appreciate it. But I hope you guys have an awesome weekend, and get some great sales over the weekend if you're out there selling. Find some great things if you're going out there sourcing. We should be back on Monday with a brand new show. And don't forget to check out last night's show with Luke on Reseller Rebound, where we take your questions and we add them and we answer them each week, 5 questions each week. So it was a really great show, and it's going to be a new series. So take care, guys. I will see you in a few days. And this is Prof Sales saying good sales to you.